In Vietnam, people leave many things by the roadside. Broken furniture, dead plants, old household gods. Most people walk past them. My friend didn't. He thought he was picking up someone else's luck. He did not understand, and I did not understand not until much later, that a sacred object abandoned on purpose is not abandoned at all. It is waiting. And whatever had moved into it while it waited, it was hungry. His name was Dwi. He was the kind of person who made every room feel slightly louder. Not cruel, just large in the way that some people are large. All instinct and forward motion, no reverse gear. He had repeated enough school years to stop apologising for it, and when he finally enrolled at a polytechnic college in Tu Duc, a district sprawling northeast of Saigon's old centre, he rented a room in a new boarding house off To Ngoc Van Street and considered the chapter officially open. The building was new. That matters. In older Vietnamese neighbourhoods, the history of a piece of land is something people discuss openly. Who lived there? Who died there? What the monks said when they came to bless the foundation. New buildings are supposed to be clean, blank, uncomplicated. Nobody had asked what was on the land before. Dwi was not religious, but he was, in the way of many young men who grow up poor and streetwise in the South, deeply superstitious. He kept a notebook of dream symbols. Every strange dream meant something. Every coincidence felt like a sign. He played football pools and Dare, a local lottery where people turned dreams into numbers and numbers into hope. He believed, with the sincerity of a true believer, that the universe was constantly communicating with those willing to read it. He was willing. That was the problem. One afternoon, riding back from somewhere with me, he braked suddenly. I looked over. At the base of a wall, one of those old walls that Saigon has everywhere, paint the colour of old egg yolk, peeling in long strips, there was a statue. Ong Dia, the earth god, protector of land, of households, of the fortune that flows up from the ground beneath your feet. Round belly, wide smile, hands open. In Vietnamese homes, he sits beside Tun Tai, the god of wealth, on a small altar near the floor, close to the earth he governs. Together they receive offerings of fruit, incense, sometimes a small glass of rice wine. Someone had taken this one and left it on the street. Dwi picked it up. He turned it over in his hands, checked for cracks, found none. He grinned at me. Whatever family threw this out, they're the fools. Their luck is mine now. He put it in his bag. We rode home. I laughed. I thought it was nothing. Neither of us had stopped to ask the right question. Not, what does this mean for Dwi? But, why would anyone throw out an object like this? In Vietnamese folk belief, especially in the south, in the old villages along the Mekong and the border towns near Cambodia, there is a practice that most people outside the culture never hear about. When a household god becomes contaminated, when the wrong kind of spirit has moved into the vessel, crowding out whatever benevolent presence was there before, you do not smash it. You do not burn it. Destruction risks releasing what is inside. You take it to a crossroads, a wall at the edge of a street, somewhere between here and there, where spirits are said to pass through freely. And you leave it. You leave it for the road to deal with, or for whoever comes along. Doi bought offerings that same evening. Fruit, a bunch of bananas, some mandarins, incense, a couple of cans of tiger beer, because that felt right for a man of his character. He arranged everything carefully, placed the statue at the centre of his new altar shelf, and knelt. He asked for smooth studying. He asked for money to come easily. He asked specifically that his gambling would turn. The incense burned. The candle guttered once, then held. I sat nearby and felt nothing except a mild wish to go home. Several days later, I came back to visit. The moment I stepped through Dewey's door, I stopped. The room was cold. Not cool, cold. The kind of cold that has nothing to do with airflow or temperature. The kind that sits in the chest when you breathe it. Thick and still and very, very present. I asked Dewey if he had gotten a new fan. He laughed. He said he still couldn't afford to fix the old one. I looked around the room for the source of it. A draft, an open window, anything that made physical sense. My eyes moved without intention to the corner, to the altar, to the statue sitting under the dim overhead light, surrounded by drying fruit and spent incense stubs. For one fraction of 1 second, the painted eyes caught the light in a way I cannot explain. I told myself it was the angle. I believed that for a long time. That night, the night of my visit, Dewey dreamed for the first time. In the dream, the altar corner of his room held something that was not the statue. A figure, crouching on top of the altar shelf, long matted hair falling to the floor, arms thin as chopsticks, rocking slowly, side to side, like something that had been alone for a very long time and had developed its own rhythm. It turned toward him. It spoke in a voice that was neither male nor female, neither close nor far. "You made an offering. Why did you stop? I am hungry. I am so hungry." Dewey woke up. He reached for his notebook. He wrote down the words. He decided that hunger corresponded to a specific number in his system. He placed a bet the next morning. He won. That is the cruelest part of how these things work in the folklore of the South. The first gift is always real. The sounds began that week. Ceramic knocking against ceramic, though nothing had been touched. Water dripping in a room with no water source. The incense offerings burning faster than they should, the ash falling in configurations that looked, if you were tired enough, if the light was low enough, like faces. The overhead light began flickering. Not the slow fade of an aging bulb, a rhythmic pulse, deliberate, the way a finger taps a surface to get attention. Dewey noticed. He told himself the building had old wiring. Then came the night he placed the knife. He had decided, with the confidence of someone who has never encountered anything that logic could not solve, that whatever was causing the disturbances was a separate entity. Something already in the building before he arrived. Something physical enough to move objects, to knock and drip and flicker. Something he could fight, if it came to that. He laid a large kitchen knife beside his pillow. He told the room, "If you come to me in a dream, I will cut you there too." He fell asleep. In the dream, he heard a slow tapping. He opened his eyes. In the dream, his eyes were already open, and there was the knife, standing upright on the floor, no hand holding it, moving, bouncing blade first across the tiles, step by step, methodical, toward his neck. He could not move, could not shout. He woke. The knife was under the pillow exactly where he left it. But Dewey did not sleep again that night, or the night after. This is when I should tell you what I think was inside that statue. I cannot tell you with certainty. Nobody can. But there is a concept in Vietnamese folk belief, common throughout the South and in the Khmer communities along the border, called Ko Hon, the wandering souls, the unmoored dead. People who died without proper rites, without family to anchor them, without the rituals that allow a soul to move on. They are not evil by nature. They are simply hungry and desperate, and they will enter any vessel left open to them. A sacred statue, properly consecrated, properly cared for, is closed. The agreement between the family and the god fills it. But a statue abandoned at a crossroads is an open vessel. And the Ko Hon are patient. They wait for the right person, someone who wants something, someone who will offer without understanding what the offering means, someone who will keep feeding without asking what they are feeding. Whatever had moved into that statue had been waiting a long time. Dewey fed it exactly once. That was all it needed. After the knife dream, Dewey did not conclude that the statue was the source of his problems. He concluded that the statue was not yet satisfied, that more was needed, that the correct ritual, performed correctly, would compel Ong Deer, or whatever he believed sat in the statue, to protect him from the thing disturbing his sleep. He went to the market. He bought tap toy, braided garlic bulbs, the kind hung in front of earth god shrines as both offering and protection. The garlic believed to repel malicious spirits from entering the sacred space. He arranged them carefully on the altar tray. He lit new incense. He felt reassured. He went to sleep. He woke to the sound of them falling, one by one, patient, as though hands were moving through them, taking each braid and dropping it over the side of the tray. Dewey could not turn his head. The paralysis was back, the same locked stillness as the knife dream, except he knew now that he was not asleep. He stared at the altar corner. Something dark, the silhouette of a crouching leg, of a form folded against the wall, detached from the shadow. And then a voice, high and low at once, almost amused. "Garlic? You brought me garlic. Is this a joke to you?" Something flew across the room and struck his face. He woke, or surfaced, or crossed back from wherever that state exists, gasping. The garlic was genuinely on the floor, scattered, not where he had placed them. He did not sleep that night either. By this point, Dewey had not slept properly in over a week. When I saw him, I almost did not recognize him. He had been 80 kilos, solid, full-faced, the kind of healthy that comes from not worrying much. Now his cheekbones were visible. The skin under his eyes was the color of a bruise that had never fully formed. He brushed off my concern. He said he was fine. He said he was handling it. That night, in his room, alone, he lay down and heard the cracking. Not outside, not the building, the altar corner, the statue, splitting, slowly from crown to base, like something inside it had grown too large to stay contained and had decided to stop pretending. Dewey could not move his head. He could only look forward, toward the altar corner, toward what was climbing out. It was tall, nearly 2 meters when it straightened, though it did not straighten for long. Black in the way that oil on a dark road is black, present and wet and wrong in the light. The head was bare. The face had structure, forehead, jaw, but where the eyes should have been, there were 2 recesses, 2 holes going nowhere. It did not walk. It sat on the floor of his room and dragged itself toward him, inch by inch, patient as it had always been patient, as patient as something that has been waiting inside a ceramic statue by a roadside wall for longer than anyone bothered to count. and it spoke. The same voice from the garlic night. But now it was not amused. Now it was starving. You have been feeding me garbage since you brought me home. Fruit, beer, garlic. These are not what I want. I have been hungry since the moment you picked me up. The only thing I want, the only thing that would have been correct, is raw meat. It reached him. It pressed down onto his chest with a weight that had no business belonging to something without a body. Dewey, who had never backed down from anything on two legs, who had been in more street fights than I can count, could not lift his arms, could not shout, could not do anything except receive what it gave him. It hit him, repeatedly. The pain was real. He would carry the bruises. When he finally surfaced, thrashed back to consciousness the way you sometimes do in the worst moments of sleep, he was on the floor. He had fallen from the bed. He lay there until the sky outside began to go grey, and then he reached for his phone, and he called me. We burned bo ket, the dried pods of the black soap tree. In southern Vietnamese folk practice, the smoke is used to cleanse a space of unwanted presences, the way other cultures use sage or salt. It is unglamorous. It smells medicinal and slightly bitter. But the old people swear by it, and on that morning none of us were inclined to argue with the old people. It took about an hour. Slowly, the quality of the air in the room changed. Dewey's breathing steadied. He sat up. He could speak. He told us everything. The dreams, the knife, the garlic, the thing that had come out of the statue. And then, reluctantly, one more thing. The very first night, the dream that followed his first offering. The number he had extracted from it, the bet he had placed, the bet he had won. One of our friends, someone who knew more about these things than the rest of us, was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It gave you money first, so you would keep the door open. That one win was not luck. It was the price of the lock. Every offering you made after that, you were not honouring anything. You were paying rent. And every dream, every warning, every night you couldn't sleep, that was the landlord reminding you that the rent goes up. And if you stay, if you keep accepting anything from it, even protection, even one more dream number, you are not borrowing luck anymore. You are in a contract you did not read, and contracts like this collect in ways you will not see coming." Dewey stared at the statue for a long time. Then he wrapped it in a cloth and carried it out. We rode together to the yellow wall on that alley. He placed the statue back exactly where he had found it, at the base of the wall, between here and there. We did not look back. That same evening, the evening after we returned the statue, Dewey rode home across Kolbing Triu. Earlier that afternoon, something small had happened that he did not mention until later. His motorbike had stalled twice on a flat road, for no reason his mechanic could explain, and at one point, stopped at a traffic light. He had glanced in his side mirror and seen, briefly, clearly, a figure standing behind him that was not there when he turned around. He had told himself he was tired. He had told himself he needed sleep. He was right about the second part. On the downslope past the bridge, his brakes failed. All at once, not fading, simply gone. He tried to drop gears. He tried dragging his feet. The speed kept building. He swerved through the traffic instinctively, through muscle memory and luck, until the junction near Pham Van Dong, and then he hit the median barrier at speed. He was thrown. People who watched it said afterward that they assumed he was dead from the way he landed. He was not dead. Fractured shoulder blade, head trauma, several hours unconscious. When he came back, surfaced, the way he had surfaced from all those other nights, gasping, unsure which side of consciousness he was on. His voice was barely there. But he used what he had. He looked at whoever was in the room and said, "Bring the statue back. Put it in my room. If you don't, the next thing won't be an accident." 3 months later, I passed through that alley again. The yellow wall was still there, still peeling, still stained by rain and years and the particular neglect that old Saigon walls seem to wear with quiet dignity. But the place where we had left the statue was empty. The idol was gone. I told myself someone had removed it. A city worker, a property owner, anyone. The explanation felt reasonable, until I looked down. There was a single incense stick planted in the dirt beside the wall, fresh, still burning. I never asked who lit it. And perhaps that is for the best, because the older I get, the more I think about the family who left that statue there in the first place. They knew something we didn't. They had lived with it long enough to understand what it wanted, long enough to understand what it cost. And one day, for reasons I can only imagine, they carried it to the edge of a road and placed it down carefully. Not thrown away, returned, given back to the Crossroads. The Vietnamese say, "Go thờ, go thiêng, go kiêng, go lan." Honor something and it watches over you. Observe its boundaries and you are safe. But some things do not want to be honored. They only want to be fed. I do not know where that statue is now. I do not know who took it or whether they carried it home. But I know one thing about things that have been hungry for a very long time. They do not stay in one place forever. They wait. And eventually, someone stops. Someone always stops. The statue smiled at everyone who walked past. It was only waiting for the one person who wouldn't.